Hey everyone. I just wanted to make a quick but super important video, and if you're a Jewish friend of mine, I may have sent this to you specifically because and hopefully other people find it too who are supposed to. So there's this peace deal that is hopefully going to happen, and I wanted to get really specific about what kind of energy can help it go through, what kind of prayer energy. And as always, like the reason I know this is because I literally talk to God every day. So God today, goddess, okay, we're gonna get into the terminology around God specifically in this video too, but this divine spirit creator, if you look at, and this is just really important, okay? So if you look at the Bible, in the beginnings of the Bible, Genesis, how the specific story around both the Jewish and what became the Islamic nations. So I don't know if everybody remembers the story, so I'm going to review it really quick. In the story, there is Abraham is married to Sarah, and she is unable to conceive, and they're getting like really old. Okay, I don't even know how old they are, man. They're like almost in their 90s. Weird. And unfortunately, well, however you might perceive it, but in biblical times, women often had, like, I guess, I don't know the exact word for it, but essentially they're like a slave who, if you can't conceive, you can have a child through the slave and they're gonna still be in your name, okay? So in this story, Sarai is really old, she hasn't conceived, and she has this woman, Hagar, whom is a slave from Egypt, and she essentially asked her to sleep with Abraham, who's like really old, guys. He's like 86, okay? Anyway, so she asked, and Sarah's like 86, okay? The whole thing's weird, first of all. But anyway, she asked her to sleep with him in order to have a child in her name. But then, like, once, I don't remember the exact details, but essentially numerous things kind of start to go awry. So first, Hagar is pregnant, and I guess Sarah kind of looks upon her with contempt because she's probably jealous. And so then Hagar runs into the desert, and I think Sarah might have, anyway, she's praying to God, and God says, don't worry, there will be a nation in your name too. And it's the first time that she speaks directly to God, the same God. And and so that's the first time. Then after this, Sarah miraculously at the age of like 90, or probably over 9, maybe even 100, I don't know how old she was, but she miraculously has a child too, Isaac. Now, Isaac and Ishmael, the two children who are half brothers, are kind of getting to know each other. And you might be asking yourself, why is this relevant? Why is this relevant? Oh, this is like the most relevant thing ever right now. So the two half brothers actually kind of love each other, and they're getting along. And but I guess Sarah felt like after Hagar had this child, like something in her changed, and Sarah's also worried that Abraham is going to give the blessing and his money or land, all that stuff, to Ishmael, who's the firstborn son. And she's worried about that, even though technically he was conceived in her name, okay? So here's where it gets really sad. Hagar is thrown out along with Ishmael. Yeah. And now she is a single woman, And she's actually looking at her son saying, I'm like afraid I'm gonna watch him die. I think Ishmael was like 15 at that point. And anyway, she prays to God, and God's like, no. And then she finds a well, and it ends up being that, of course the nations of Islam are born through that hearing, through association with this story, the same way that Jews have associated with the other story. And before we get too entirely focused on that story, let's also remember what then happened to Isaac, who was put on the altar, and because God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, so he was put on the altar, terrified for his life, and then saved. But I know that that's separate, but like, it's not, I'm just saying that I feel like that's kind of a common feeling for Jewish people, where it's like, you think you're gonna die over and over again, but then you're saved. So that's kind of our trauma, okay? If that's our trauma, then it's really important for us to understand the Islam trauma, because their trauma is that Sarah kicked them out after asking them to make a baby, kicked them out, and then they don't have a dad, even though they're still connected with God. Like they didn't have a dad figure. Like they lost Abraham. So yeah, like there's gonna be this like ancient resentment there if you know the religion, and that's, those stories really matter. And there's gonna be this abandonment feeling. And if you think about what we're seeing in the world today sometimes is, yeah, like there definitely is this like, if you don't have a good dad figure, I mean, talking historically, but like I'm not talking about every person who's Arabic, obviously, but just like there is this extreme part that's acting in this really like abandoned, hurt way. And then in terms of the mom energy, like, so anyways, this entire story is problematic, okay? Like, let's just remember that we are modern beings, we are spiritual beings, and here and now, I don't mean to like insult anybody's religion, but like I believe strongly that we are permitted to imagine new stories. And right now what's going on with Israel and Palestine in the Middle East, and Israel and all the other energies, like, we need to hold compassion for this, and we need to write a new story. And it's not against spirit to do that. In fact, that's part of the beauty of faith, is that we can do that. So the new story that I propose is, do you see the top of this feather? Is two sisters. They could even be twins if you want. Two twin sisters. And we are gonna name them, the Jewish sister, the goddess of the Jews is gonna be HaShem. Ha means the in Hebrew, and Shem is name, but to me it means name in Hebrew, and people say it for God, but I prefer to think of it as Shem, as in she and they, the female and non-binary combined pronoun. Okay, so there's her. And then her twin sister, we're gonna rename Hagar to be HaMama, because Ha is the, once again, and HaMama means dove in Arabic, and that's just such a beautiful name. I just love it. So we're doing that. So there's Hashem and HaMama, and they're twin sisters, and they're both gonna go and find their dream man, or dream whomever if you're queer, but we don't need to think about that right now. They're gonna both find their dream person. They're gonna have their own healthy relationships, their own healthy children, and they're gonna live beautiful lives. I don't know if you can see this. There's a beautiful dragonfly here. So any time that you are thinking about what's going on in Israel and Palestine, and you want peace to be in that entire region, it's okay to think of this new story, because I promise you, it is at the root of suffering. And honestly, let's also just imagine, so we're going to imagine that Ishmael had a dad, had his own dad, and Isaac had his own dad, and everybody's connected to God, and nobody tried to sacrifice Isaac on an altar either, because that is clearly still causing us a lot of anxiety too. So let's just reimagine these stories. They've served a purpose, but I really want to see a world where everybody gets along better. Okay, thank you for tuning in today. It is appreciated.